Welcome back to Coast View. I really enjoyed that conversation with Caitlin Perry. She always does a great job visiting with me and sharing her story. Watching her development over the last couple of years has been really fun to watch, and she's a great role model for young people. And this Band-Aid program that she did where she's getting Band-Aids for hospitals, children's hospitals. I didn't know this at the time. It's something she talked to me about last year. Kids get Band-Aids, but they don't have these characters on the Band-Aids. And she has now raised over 75,000 boxes of Band-Aids with characters on them from, I guess, across the country that are going to kids that want Band-Aids that have, a little bit of cheery message on them. And, if you have a mermaid or something like that on there, it makes a difference for a kid. And I just thought that was pretty special. Jay Bryce, incidentally, who's sort of an ambassador, really, for Miss Gulf Coast, has been on my show before, and she really represents that organization really well as well. So she's a good role model for people. Now let's shift gears and move over to my friend Linda Hornsby, the executive director of the Mississippi Hotel and Lodging Association. It's been a while since we visited. I look forward to getting the latest. But how you doing this morning, Linda?
Doing great. Really doing great. And it's good it has been a while since we've talked.
It has been a while, and you're actually in your car because you were just getting out of an important meeting, and you made it on time.
Thank you.
Okay, so what's the state of the industry? We keep hearing about all the issues and the economic situation and so on, but reports I'm getting from attractions locally has been pretty good. So what's the story from the Hotel and Lodging Association?
It's better than pretty good. It is. I mean, it's rate driven. I will say everything's rate driven. Just like everyone else, labor costs are up between paying people more and paying people overtime because you're short staffed. That's a huge factor. Supplies, cost of doing business has gone up, and so they had to go up on rates. But it has not affected occupancy. In fact, occupancy is just soaring. I mean, we're talking to hotels that are doing 85% during the week and 100% on weekends.
Man, that's really incredible. In fact, I had a friend of mine who was over in Destin, wanted to come over and go fishing with me this weekend. And they named a couple of places they wanted to stay at, 100% occupancy. No way to get them a room at either of those places. Yeah. I think that bodes well. Hey, listen, we've had a lot of conversations on the show. As I talk to certain attractions, their business is holding up, is doing really well compared to last year and the years before. I think people, they may not be going to the Bahamas. They might have decided they're just going to get in their car and drive the Mississippi Gulf Coast. But we've actually been in a sweet spot as it relates to people going to travel. They may decide they're going to come here, and as long as we make a good impression, maybe they're going to come back. But the story's been good for Coastal Mississippi.
It has. It definitely has. I mean, the stars were aligned in our favor, and the only thing that we're very watchful of is last year, of course, we were just doing double-digit increases over even 2019. We couldn't really count 20, but double-digit increases in everything. But we're watchful now because last year, this time, the rest of the nation was not necessarily opened up. We were. Yeah. And now everybody's open. And so we'll just see. It does appear year-over-year growth seems to be leveling out.
Yeah.
And so, but it's still good. 100% is 100%. But it does seem to be leveling out a little bit because everybody's open.
Well, you can feel it. You can feel it when you drive around. I mean, you feel that, there just seems to be a lot of people out and about, not just on weekends, but on weekdays.
Yeah.
The weather has been cooperating. I mean, we have the normal showers, but remember last year, we just got inundated with so much rain during the summer. And I'm sure that was certainly a factor. But, I think the fact that we said we're open for business during the heart of the pandemic was going to create an impression on people that they were going to make a decision about whether to come back or not. And hopefully a lot of these are repeat performances. These are people who've come back that aren't just, this is not a first or second visit, but they love coming here because there's a lot to do, and they're treated well, and the weather's been great, the beach has been clean. It's been a terrific kind of set of circumstances working for us.
Yeah, I think one of the factors that we can't ignore that happened last year, because some of our competitors were not open yet or not fully open, we got to introduce ourselves to people who had not been here before or hadn't been here in a while. And, once you get it, you get it. And so they came, they saw, and hopefully we'll be on the top of their list from now until a long time.
Well, as you know, Matt McDonald's a regular guest here, and they've had some historic successes at the Coliseum.
Unbelievable numbers.
Yeah, unbelievable numbers.
Yeah.
Really.
Yeah, they have a convention in there right now. Now, a Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday convention of about 1,700 delegates. That's just such, you talk about sweet spots. That is exactly what we want. And they've rented out every space that they have there. It's a very large convention. It's something about technology, and I think it's college students and teachers. And so it's a great piece of business.
Wow, that's incredible. We had a live remote from the Mississippi Municipal League, and I didn't know what to expect. I said, sure, it can't be incredibly well attended because, municipal leaders have a lot on their minds these days. It'd be interesting to see. I got there, I couldn't find a place to park. And of course, as we started the live remote and had conversations with various leaders from across the state, all of them were saying the same thing. It's extraordinarily well attended. And as it turns out, it makes sense that it was well attended because during the pandemic, they learned a lot. During the pandemic, they had to so-called sharpen their saw a little bit to get better at what they do. And they're really eager to learn what others are learning and learn about best practices and see what the latest is, and meet with state legislators and the leadership across our state. There was actually never a better time to go to a Mississippi Municipal League, and it was clear that's what they decided to do. But
I agree.
See, then you do so well.
Yeah, and we all had to reinvent our product. We had to reinvent our way of doing business, just like the municipals did. And then getting together and sharing that information is so valuable, because no matter how you reinvented yourself, maybe there is a better way. And maybe somebody did something differently that you're going to say, hey, I think I'll adopt that. And so that's the value of like MML getting together and sharing. Everybody loves sharing their successes or failures. Don't try this. So yeah, I think it's all of those things.
Well, we talked a lot about the Mississippi Gulf Coast, but when you look across the state, what's the word that you're hearing?
And the same thing. I mean, everybody is doing very well. I just can't say enough. The hotels, they never missed a beat. Very few hotels closed. The casinos had to at some point, but opened as soon as it was safe to do so. But the hotels, a lot of the independents look to the brands, and that's what we shared with them for do this immediately. Train your staff. It was all about sanitizing and making people feel safe and clean, and they did it. They just didn't even miss a beat.
It's incredible. We talked a lot about that early on. I think one of the incredible stories of Mississippi is the way the private sector rallied. Yeah. Especially in the tourism area. Casinos, for example, as you well know, but and I've said this before for people who don't know this, but coast casinos in particular were really a best practice for the world. I mean, there were casinos from all around the world that were paying attention to what our coast casinos were doing, with the way they reconfigured their gaming floors, the way they talked about, providing, cleaning stations for people, and the way they approached their employees and the training that they did. Yeah. They leave no stone unturned. And that was true for your industry as well. Literally left no stone unturned to make people feel safe. And that was kind of the high priority, wasn't it?
That was the highest priority. And I will tell you, a lot of those practices they'll continue. And I could see it when it was happening. I said, they're never going to do away with this. They're always going to have sanitizing stations, and they're always going to have certain things that they implemented, and it makes sense. It just makes sense.
It really does. But you actually estimated early on, or predicted early on, that a lot of the things that are getting implemented will never go away from this point forward. People are going to be conscious about this. It looks like it just seems like it's a good business practice, and it becomes an expectation for customers. Hey, when we come back with Linda Hornsby, we'll talk a little bit more about what's going on in the Mississippi Hotel and Lodging Association these days, and see what else is on her mind. We'll see you after this break. Welcome back to Coast View. I look back on my time at Coast View. I look back at my time having any leadership role in tourism at all. I had the honor of leading the tourism planning effort after Hurricane Katrina. I got to know a lot of amazing people. We had hundreds of people involved in that effort. But I look back at my time, any aspect of touching tourism in my leadership roles over the years. And Linda Hornsby is always somebody who sticks out to me. I've always had a good relationship with her. I've always enjoyed sort of talking about the situation, and I found her to be incredibly knowledgeable and a wonderful representative of the Mississippi Hotel and Lodging Association. And it's been a while since we visited Linda. And, anytime we get together, I'm reminded about how much I enjoy chatting with you and seeing the latest. But congratulations on all the success. And it's got to be, I can't help but remember how difficult it was right when we got in the midst of the pandemic and everybody shut down, and what it meant for your industry and how difficult it was going to be. And then you had to ramp back up again when we decided we wanted to be ramped back up. It's been a trying last 2 or 3 years, hasn't it?
It really has. And, I almost have blocked some of it out, especially those first days and weeks of March of 20. It was just like every day was a different day, a different job. It was, we're not going to do what we did yesterday. We got to do something different. And it was just such a moving target, but we did it. We went through it, and everybody helped each other. So, what I'm impressed by, is that it didn't matter how small the company was or how big they were. You were equally committed to making sure they had the information they needed, so they could survive. Because we need every hotel room we've got, don't we? Yes, and we have a very large database, so it was very easy. Once I would have a bit of information, which happened many times a day, I would shoot it out to our database throughout the state, and so that was easily done. And some of them may have gotten tired of hearing from me, but others, added comments, and so I have a very large database of hotels and hotel vendors, people that do business with hotels.
Well, Linda, one of the areas where you and I talked, and I mean, this has been a common theme, whether I'm talking with chamber leaders or business owners, and I don't care what kind of business they're in, if they're honest about their situation, they always say that finding people is still a challenge. I don't care whether it's Ingalls or whether it's just finding someone who can be a custodian, and all points in between. It's literally a challenge, and that's just kind of where we are. But you guys have been especially hit, because what we need to point to is the fact that even before the pandemic, finding people that could work at hotels was a challenge. So much so, actually, that some of the casinos were having to be super, super innovative in how they approached it. Right. What's the current state of affairs as it relates to this in your industry?
Well, staffing is still probably the number one problem. Cost of doing business is second, but staffing is still, and it's always been somewhat of an issue because of attrition and things, but it's a huge problem and, a day-to-day challenge.
And you mentioned a minute ago, you having to pay overtime to overcome the lack of...
Even if you had the base crew that you need, they're working 60, 80 hours. A lot of that's overtime. That costs more than having two people at that position. So we, those are significant costs that we can't ignore.
One of the things I've been curious about, do you have visibility into potential future motels that might be coming to the area?
We do have a pipeline, yes.
And
I don't have it in front of me. I don't have it in front of me right now. Well, that fluctuates, but it's looking good. People are very interested, especially in the coast. If they see the hotels doing so well, and they say, "Well, I'm a hotel developer. Let me get in line." And I don't really count them in the pipeline until basically they're moving dirt. I mean, everybody has a dream, and they're going to build this, and until they have the financing and they are permitted, then that becomes real.
Well, we've had conversations on Coastview in the last month about Broadwater continues to move forward. That could be,
I hope so,
a big lick. Then you have the Sports Illustrated involvement on the
how about that
Iberville deal, and there's one being built right now just like it over in the was it Arizona or New Mexico?
Yeah.
So
and the good thing about that, let me tell you, there's two things that project has that just make it so viable. Number one, the scope of the project, unbelievable, huge. And number two, the brand. Yes. Who doesn't know what Sports Illustrated is? You don't have to explain it. You don't have to describe it. It just, top notch. That's a great development.
Yeah. Well, we'll see. All that money was on the sidelines. Now it's getting invested. They're looking hard at coastal Mississippi, and some bets are already being in place. A lot of planning, a lot of millions of dollars being spent on planning for these deals. So I think some of these are going to come true, and it's going to be game changers for coastal Mississippi. Linda, we're out of time. It's been a pleasure to catch up with you, my friend.
Thank you. I want to come back whenever we find out about a grant that we have for attractions package program, hotel and attractions packages. But once it's in place, I'll come back on and
let me know. I can't wait to talk to you.
Thank you.
Bet. So this has been Linda Hornsby. Have a great day, and we'll see you tomorrow.